Hello everyone, this is Cobalt. This is the next video in my character analysis series for Brawlhalla. Stick around till the end to hear about entering the giveaway to win community colors, emotes, weapon skins, sidekicks, avatars, or even the battle pass, and voting for the next legends. And if you want to skip all this and get straight into the information, there's a timestamp in the description, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with the release of your favorite legend. In these analyses, I wanted to focus solely on the character's signatures. Light attack combos are covered much more in depth than I ever could elsewhere and function pseudo-comparably for all characters of that weapon class. So I'm not going to be discussing the general neutral of the character with their weapons unless it pertains in some way to their signatures. Firstly, I want to give clear descriptions of the terminology I'll be using. Startup frames are the amount of frames that happen after a move has begun until the first hitbox of the move becomes active. Active frames are the duration of frames that the move contains hitboxes that can collide with your opponent. FAF, or First Actionable Frame, is the first frame available where your character is able to move again after the move has been started. For all of this data, I use the character's jump to display the first actionable frame. Lastly, On Miss refers to the move not connecting with an opponent, and On Hit refers to the move making contact with an opponent. I'm going to be doing my analysis today on the final legend, Scarlet, who, not gonna lie, is one of my least favorite legends. She was the youngest person elected to the Royal Society, the only female boxing champion of England, and discovered a lost world of dinosaurs, but was betrayed by her partner, Baron von Evilstein. Are you kidding me? You know what? Never mind. He framed her for his murder and tried to battle her over the English Channel, which she won with her Royal Navy. Scarlet's weapons are Rocket Lance and Hammer. She's seen a consistent amount of competitive play, seeing solid results throughout her competitive lifespan. She has a stat spread of 8 attack, 5 dexterity, 5 defense, and 4 speed. Why is her attack so high? Seriously though, the stat spread isn't bad. Average values in defense and dex is fine, and her speed doesn't really hurt giving her weapon combination, both of which are really solid in the metagame currently. I think that Lance is a good weapon, so we can debate that in the comments if you want. But she'll probably see more competitive play in the future. Yay. So, are her sigs good, or are her weapons and high attack stat what's bringing her to the forefront of the competitive metagame? Well, let's find out. Let's start with the Rocket Lance. Rocket Lance side sig has 20 frames of startup, active frames from 21 to 37 with an FAF of 71. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Scarlet hops onto her Rocket Lance and rides it forward. The sig has average startup and above average FAF, so it can be punished if you miss it. The hitboxes on this signature are only on the upper half of the lance, so it has roughly the same hitbox sizes as side air on Rocket Lance. It has solid utility in front of her and decent range as well. It knocks out insanely early too, though this generally applies to all of her signatures. Rocket Lance neutral sig has 15 frames of startup, active frames from 16 to 42 with an FAF of 73. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Scarlet rides her Rocket Lance into the air upward. It's a pretty simple signature and contains hitboxes only on the top portion of the lance. It has really good startup, honestly, and lasts for a pretty long time, and it's pretty insane how high this signature reaches. The FAF on it is pretty high, as she's almost grounded again before she's able to move, so if you miss, you can be definitely punished with this pretty hard. But the sig does cover jumping opponents as well as those recovering high. It has a lot of range to it and has pretty useful coverage. Rocket Lance down sig has 20 frames of startup, active frames from 21 to 35 with an FAF of 57. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Scarlet whips her lance around and ejects an enormous plume of steam from the end of it. The signature has average startup and FAF. It has reasonable amounts of active frames, but the hitboxes on this thing are absolutely enormous and can extend really far in front of her. This also makes it incredibly effective at slide charging it off stage. It has some pretty solid utility on her kit given its large reaching hitboxes and frame data for a sig this strong and disjointed. Next up is her Hammer. Hammer side sig has 22 frames of startup, active frames from 23 to 32 with an FAF of 62. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Scarlet swings her hammer forward directly in front of her. It has slightly above average startup and FAF, but it has good range to it and it hits really hard. The hitboxes on it surprised me though with how small they were, honestly, but the utility on this move more often than not comes from its ability to ledge pressure. It's one of the few signatures that can reach downward whenever used from the ledge and can connect with opponents that are clinging to the wall, which is ridiculously good to have, and the active frames change to 26 to 34 with a new FAF of 60. The sig is really good despite this average frame data thanks to its utility. It's honestly kind of insane the coverage that this sig has at ledge, and it can really mess people up that don't know how it can cover the wall in the same fashion. Hammer neutral sig has 19 frames of startup, active frames from 20 to 23 with an FAF of 47. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. During the signature, Scarlet simply swings her hammer upwards. The sig has average startup and well below average FAF, making it pretty good on miss as well. It covers jumping opponents and high recoveries. It has good utility above her, and thanks to the low FAF, it works pretty well, especially considering its coverage and utility for catching opponents above. Hammer Downsig has 20 frames of startup, active frames from 21 to 28 with an FAF of 50. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. Should this move connect, it functions as a command grab with a new FAF of 76. Scarlet swings her hammer straight in front of her, and if it connects, she grabs them, spins them around several times, and then swings them in the opposite direction. The Sig has average startup and pretty damn good FAF, honestly, on miss. It knocks out insanely early as well and has some really solid range on it. It catches opponents really well, and as a command grab, it's a really solid signature to me. So, overall, her SIGs are honestly just okay in terms of their frame data. She only has one signature that has below average startup, but several of them have below average FAF that are all really good. All of her signatures, though, do have a fair bit of utility on them. Some of them are plenty punishable, but Downsig on Rocket Lance, Neutral Sig, and Downsig on Hammer are just really good in my opinion. They have either pretty good frame data or really good coverage. Her Hammer Neutral Sig has an FAF of 47 for God's sake. When coupled with her impeccable strength stat, that makes these really risky to take hits from. Not to mention that her Hammer Side Sig has the ability to cover opponents on the wall, which I find to be a little ridiculous, honestly. These signatures are just really strong and have a good amount of utility on them. Now, I will say that her Side Sig and Neutral Sigs on Rocket Lance have slightly more limited utility thanks to their poor FAF, but they do have decent range, and I don't think that they're that bad, honestly. Just take a look at her Rocket Lance Neutral Sig and how high it reaches. These Sigs are just pretty solid, and have decent utility on her kit, I think. Today's code to put down in the comments is YOKO, along with your Twitter handle or social media of your preference. And if you get that reference, I appreciate it. Also, feel free to check out my Twitch channel. I'll be streaming later tonight, so feel free to come by and say hello. My channel will be linked in the description down below. Sorry this video took so long, by the way. My laptop charger broke and I couldn't get a new one until today. Tune in, well... I mean, I'm going to have another video coming out next week, but these Legend videos are done for now. So, I guess look forward to the next video, and I'll be doing some weapon analyses for Brawlhalla very soon. I can't believe it's already been 10 weeks since I started this journey. Though I'm glad to be done with these if I'm being honest with you. But to everybody that has watched, participated in the giveaways, and given me feedback, thank you so much. Thanks for joining me on this ride. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the release of my next content, and hope to see you back for the next one. Once again, I'm Cobalt, and thanks for watching. Oh, come on! Ugh.